all, it's Elisa Cole Murphy, and I'm here with a market report for you. Now, I try to do these about once a month, so this is it for the month of August, and all of the numbers are in, and I'm going to talk to you about 3 trends that you need to understand now to understand where the financial markets are going as it pertains to real estate. You'll know what to watch out for by the end of this video and why. So stay tuned. Now, I do these on my Instagram at Cool Murphy Nola as well, and also on my personal Facebook page. But this one is designed specifically for at home in New Orleans, my Facebook group. And I do go more in depth here, you guys, than I do on the other channels. I also poll you guys in advance of these updates to understand what kind of questions that you have. So if you have questions for the next market report, please, please, please let me know. I'm happy to address them. The first question that came up, I'm going to address first, and then I'm going to go into some national financial trends that you guys need to be on the lookout for. I'll touch on those 3 trends I promised, and I'll wrap up with some New Orleans numbers and data so that you can understand New Orleans trends and what's happening in our housing market specifically. Now, the question that I got from you guys this month is, what steps do I need to take in order to get myself up to date to be a homeowner? It's kind of like going on a vacation. Like, do I need my passport? What vaccines do I need, right? So if you're only just starting to look at buying a house, the first 3 things you need to do are as follows. Number 1, reach out and let me know. Every buyer, every person is a little bit different. And so there may be things specific to you and your needs that I can help you out with. And I'm happy to do that. The second thing, you need to connect with a great lender. I always connect you guys with my preferred lender. They are local, they are incredible, and I have other exceptional lenders that I like to get people to work with for specific needs or personality types. So after our meeting, I'll be able to tell you who would work best for you and why. It's critical that that lender is local. And the reason is that national banks tend to approve people free and loose, and they don't take into consideration things that pertain to New Orleans. For example, I once had a national lender tell me, oh, well, you know, with these old houses, things are just different, and this is an old house. That's crazy. No local lender would do that. I've also had national lenders tell me things like, well, we weren't anticipating this Louisiana law. Okay, local lenders are going to get that. Because local lenders that have a good reputation are, looked after by agents, when I'm listing a home, if I see 2 deals that are identical, but I know one lender is absolutely going to come through, I'm going to pass on that information to my seller to make sure they're protected. So it's critical that you guys work with somebody who knows what's going on locally when it comes to lending, and also somebody that has a great reputation, because it could make or break your deal when it comes to a multiple offer situation. So I'm going to throw that out there. And then the third thing that you need to do is this. If you're not clear on what neighborhoods you want to be in, if you're not clear on what type of home you want to be in, if you're not clear on what's out there, start going to open houses. Start going to them immediately, and I can get you an app that'll allow you to save your favorite houses and see everything that us realtors see on the MLS. So the 3 things you need to do: talk to me. I can guide you if there's anything that you may not be aware of that's specific to your need. I can help you with that. I'll hook you up with an awesome local lender that has a great reputation. And lastly, I'll make sure that you get direct access to that MLS so that you can start saving these houses, and also knowing when open houses and things are popping up, so you can start to whittle down your finances, both what's possible and what your limitations are, the plan that's best for you, and the place that's best for you. So I hope that answered your first question. Now, the next thing I'm going to dive in here are some national market trends that are important to know. And then I'm going to touch on 3 big housing trends you need to know to not only sound smart at your next social engagement, but also so that you can keep an eye on the news as it comes in, and you'll know what's going to happen next. Are you ready? Let's do it. So on the national front, I always like to lead with interest rates. Interest rates are huge because it's the percentage that you're going to pay to the bank. As that percentage increases, you owe more money to the bank, which means that your monthly payment becomes more interest than principal, or the money that goes directly to your house. So you can afford less house as the money that you owe to the bank increases. Interest rates are as such as of today. And I get these interest rates from bankrate.com. I use a 20% down payment, which is high. You can do a 3.5% or 5% down payment, but I use a 20% down payment to keep things consistent. I'm also looking at a home that's $325,000. That is a median priced home in Orleans Parish. So for those of you that have a credit score of 640 to about 700, many of you do, this is one of the first barriers to entry with a mortgage. If your credit score is below 640, there are products for you out there, but you're going to not have access to quote unquote the normal product range that is out there, but you will at 640 or higher. So this is on the low end, $325,000 house with 20% down. You're going to pay an interest rate right now in the low threes. This is amazing news. That used to be 5% in 2019. We're still in the low threes. 3.375% was the quote that I got today. If your credit score is a little bit higher, 740 or higher is considered excellent. That interest rate drops to 2.75%. You're in the high twos. This is incredible. In 2019, you could have an 800 credit score and with 20% down, maybe not hit this number. So this is really good. This is why, despite you guys hearing over and over again that it's a seller's market, and it is, it's also favorable to buyers. And this is part of what's going into making it a seller's market. As these interest rates hike up, and they have gone up from last year, it will be less and less attractive to buy, and therefore it will also be less and less of a seller's market. So pay attention to interest rates. Now, I wanted to talk about that 1%. If we look at the 8-year cost of a loan, so this means like your origination fees up front to your monthly payments, not including your principal, not including property insurance, just what you're paying on interest. If you had an interest rate at 3.375% over the course of 8 years, you would pay, this is in fees and interest alone, $64,460 in fees and interest. But if you got that lower credit score at 2.75%, okay, so we're looking at 0.5% difference, you would pay $59,166 over those first 8 years. So a 0.5% difference in your interest rate means, doing the math here, $5,000 in interest and fees over the course of 8 years that you can avoid by locking in a low interest rate now. So if they go up just 0.5%, you're looking at $5,000 out of pocket over the course of 8 years that you could have saved. So if you're interested in locking in a loan and talking to a great lender and just understanding where you're standing right now, what's possible financially for you, I'm happy to connect you with a great lender. Let's talk about what's going on in the macro financial markets that are going to help influence what's going on with the housing market. And then I'm going to touch on those 3 trends I keep telling you about. Number one, you might hear a lot of people talking about concerns regarding inflation. It's harder to get products. The cost to get basic things are higher. Some basic things include things like refrigerators that go into buying a home, lumber that go into buying a home, all of those things, when their prices go up, so do homes. So inflation impacts everything, and consumer prices jumped in July 5.4%. So that's a pretty good jump in the month of July, but it's also lower than analysts originally predicted. So while people are still very sensitive and having lots of discussions around inflation is happening, it's not quite to the degree that they had anticipated, which was a little bit of relief to everybody. But as inflation goes up, so too will interest rates. So while you're looking to lock in those rates, pay attention not only to what's going on in the bond market and on the interest rates, but pay attention to what's happening to inflation. Because as inflation increases, it puts pressure on the federal government to increase interest rates. Those two things are often linked. Pay attention to those. The second thing, payrolls. This means the amount of people taking home a paycheck also went up by almost 1 million paychecks in July. So jobs are coming up. The job market is getting healthier. In fact, unemployment was down 5.4% as well. So people are getting out there and getting jobs and working, and they're working to be able to hopefully pay some of this cost of inflation. Pay attention to inflation, because as inflation goes, so do interest rates, and so do what it costs monthly payment in your mortgage to be able to afford the same home. All right. Now, the biggest thing, our industries rather, that where more and more people are getting employed are in hospitality and leisure, which is great news for a city like New Orleans that relies on that. followed by services industries, which is also really important. Now, when I say services, I don't mean wait staff. We covered that with hospitality. I mean service-oriented professions like accounting, like technical services, consulting services. So a lot of those jobs, guys, are also remote, and those jobs increasing the number of employees they have and the number of therefore remote employees are also making places like New Orleans more and more attractive, because people with payrolls or paychecks that are higher elsewhere can bring those dollars to New Orleans, can afford these homes, and that's going to continue to increase home prices here as well. So home prices are going to be on the rise, we believe, at least until the end of the year. Interest rates are also going to be on the rise, at least until the end of the year. Nobody sees both of these things going down. So if you're considering buying, now is a great time to do it, and those are the reasons why. Now, the three trends are here. The three trends I want to touch on in housing are this. Number one, inventory. We'll talk about inventory, what it means, why it's so important to pay attention to inventory, and a couple of things you might not have thought about as it pertains to inventory. Second is the fluctuation of interest rates, which we already touched on. We're going to dive into that and why it matters and what's going on there a little bit more deeply. And then last is technology. So the three big trends you need to keep an eye on as it pertains to housing markets are inventory, interest rates fluctuating, and the use of technology. So let's dive into the first one here. We're going to talk about inventory. You guys know the principles of supply and demand. When there's less of something and it's in demand, it's going to be priced higher because it can be, because the value has increased as the supply has gone down, but the demand has remained the same or gone up. So we're going to talk about that. Mortgage applications are down. The demand for people financing their homes is down 18% compared to this time last year. But last year it was outrageous. So 18% down is still not enough to eat away at that demand relevant to the supply that we currently have. Also, when we look at the demand, the mortgage applications, people applying for a mortgage from June to July, it did go up 2%. So it's down year over year. It's trending up each month. More people are applying for mortgages than they did the month before, which means if you're looking to buy, your competition is getting steeper. Act now. Okay, so what else is happening here we talked about demand with supply. Supply here is another problem. We touched on lumber prices earlier. The United States is down 5 million homes that they thought were going to get built by this time this year that haven't. And the reason that so many people are hesitant to build is because the cost of the materials to build are higher than they have been in past years by a good amount. So we don't see a lot of people listing still. We're seeing it, and those people that are listing their homes are doing really well. We're not seeing a lot of building, and therefore we're not seeing that supply increase. So while the demand is down year over year, it's not down to what it was in 2018 or 2019, and it's starting to climb up again. And the supply is just, no one's making a dent in increasing the supply because we're not seeing a flood of houses come on the market. We're also not seeing the material costs go low enough for people to start building and making up that $5 million deficit. So that is what's happening on inventory. Now, a couple of you challenged me on this before, and I want to touch on this. Lisa, aren't there going to be more houses that hit the market because people were unable to pay their mortgages this past year? That's a really good point. And so I looked into the Census Bureau stats on that, and I want to touch on it. According to a survey that the Census Bureau did of homeowners, so they looked at people between the dates of June 2021 and June 21st and July 5th. So they looked at a small amount of time. They wanted to look at how many people were making their housing payments. Now they did those dates because most people's mortgages are due on or around the first of the month. So they looked at people that were paying early and people that might be paying a little bit late. They had to pick a time, right? So they did that, June 21st to July 5th. They looked at the number of people not making housing payments. That number across the United States was 4.77 million. People were not making their housing payments. 8 million said they wouldn't make July's housing payment. So there are, if you wanted to put those numbers together, and that's not perfect data or perfect math to do so, but say we did for the benefit of argument, we're approaching nearly 13 million homeowners that are not going to pay their mortgage or haven't been paying it so far. We have 5 million homes that haven't been built. So you do the math and you look down at that, we got about 8 million homes that might hit the market. It's not enough still to impact the supply so much that if you're sitting around going, you know what, I'm just going to wait till the bubble bursts. I'm just going to wait till these people don't pay their mortgages and the housing market drops and I'm going to buy. Nothing is supporting that right now. I want to be super clear with you, and it's not just because I'm in real estate and we want to sell you something. If you're sitting around waiting for things to drop, none of the economists at the Census Bureau, in the housing department, in the National Realtor Association, baseline economists on housing inventory are saying that's not going to happen. We can all be wrong, but it's a big risk. I would take advantage now while interest rates were in my favor and inflation hadn't impacted the housing supply and pricing even more. The second thing we need to talk about is interest rates, which I just touched on. Rising prices are the number one barrier for most people to buy, especially first-time home buyers. So if you're listening to me right now and you're saying, well, of course, Lisa, I'm waiting for these prices to go down because I can't afford to buy them. I feel for you. I understand that. We don't see that changing anytime soon, though. We do see a bigger trend in rent to own, not here in New Orleans currently, but across the United States. So keep an eye on that. That might help you out in another city. But the biggest hurdle to buy continues to be available inventory, which is increasing home prices and making it difficult for especially first-time homeowners to get into the home buying market. So what I suggest and what you might want to do is to look outside of the neighborhoods that you really, really, really want. Remember, you can live in a home 2, 3, 5 years. You don't have to live there forever. You'll still get a return on your investment. Consider looking at markets and neighborhoods where you can afford to buy, because those markets are having their home values appreciate too. For example, if you go across the river to Marrero, if you look at Gretna, if you go across the canal to Chalmette, you can put 0% down on a home. No down payment, only closing costs. Consider it. It may be a way to get you in somewhere where you can afford to be a property owner, and then you can in turn change that into some equity and come back several years later and buy exactly where you want, because those home prices are going up too. Other areas that qualify for the 0% down are Norco. If you're getting out to Garyville, if you're looking at all of those areas are considered quote unquote rural development, you can get a USDA loan. I have a great lender for that, and you can buy with no down payment. Or consider moving to a neighborhood that is adjacent to, or maybe 2 neighborhoods over from where you're looking at buying. Invest in those areas. So many areas that you may not have considered even 2 years ago are rapidly changing. They may be more appealing to you now. Consider it. Third thing, look into a smaller place. Maybe a apartment or a condo is better because it's a starter home that you can afford to be in. Check it out. These are all solutions that will be stepping stones to get you to where you want to go. And I'm happy to help with that. Let's look at this too. So we were talking about fluctuating rates. The specialists out there, and I looked at thehill.com and the Census Bureau for those statistics, but on thehill.com, they're projecting that interest rates are going to stay in the low 3s throughout 2021. So let's talk now. Your interest rate is usually locked in for 90 days. We can look anytime from now to almost Christmas and find you a great spot. There is no pressure and no rush. You can sit back and see what pops out. The federal government is hoping that keeping this in the low 3s is going to allow for more movement in the marketplace. But what we're also seeing is that it is creating multiple offer situations. In almost every offer situation I've been in, it's been a multiple offer situation for my clients. We still get the houses, more than not, can help you out with that, but expect that to happen. Third trend, let's look at what's happening in technology. And I'm not talking about Zillow here, guys. I'm not talking about using social media. There are a couple really interesting trends that are happening in technologies that pertains to real estate, and I want to touch on each one. The first is mortgage applications. You don't have to go to Mortgage or to Rocket Mortgage or those big brands anymore to use an app to do a mortgage application. In fact, local lenders here in New Orleans, and I'm happy to send you a link to one of their apps, are using apps to help make it easier for you to upload documents securely to be approved for a mortgage application. They're taking a little bit of the intimidation factor out of it and making it easy for you to do by your phone, by your computer, without this scary face-to-face interaction. So that is going to make it easier for people to have a wild idea of buying a home. Maybe they saw something like this on social media and they can pull out a mortgage application and do that from the comfort of their pajamas on their couch. So that is going to lead, I believe, to an increase in mortgage applications because we're making the process so much easier and less scary for people. Call me if you want an app. Message me if you want an app. Secondly, there are crowdfunding technologies. A good example is one called Fundraise that only existed to raise funds for the purchasing of property in the commercial sector until recently. Now they are moving into single family homes, meaning you can crowd fund your home purchase. There are different ways to do this to be accepted for a mortgage, so make sure you're playing in and coloring within the lines. But gifts are allowed for things like FHA loans, and crowdfunding apps like Fundraise are giving you a platform to help raise for things. What's an instance you could do this? Well, for my birthday, guys, don't get me a gift. It's COVID. We're all staying at home. Throw a couple $100 my way, or $2 or $25 my way towards my down payment. Hey guys, we're getting married on Zoom. Could you please contribute to our down payment budget on Fundraise? This is going to change the face of the real estate industry. And the third trend under technology that I find super interesting are NFTs. NFTs, you're probably starting to hear about it. It's non-fungible tokens. Okay, you've heard about this as it relates to the metaverse and how people are using different currencies tied to the blockchain to be able to have ownership or options on certain things that are either real life experience or things, or more than not virtual things, augmented reality, virtual reality. Designers, big red carpet designers, are making NFTs in fashion so that you can dress your online persona within the metaverse, within Fortnite, within you name it, online games. And people are starting to collect these and invest in them in a major way. I know, Matt's obsessed. But what does this mean for real estate? Well, as the metaverse continues to expand and people keep buying things, retail things, with these NFTs, or buying NFTs rather, we're also seeing there being property for sale within the metaverse. And we also see people tokenizing things in the real universe, leveraging them to get tokens to spend in the metaverse. For example, taking their home and using it to buy tokens or cryptocurrency to be spent here. This is going to be interesting, especially because, as I mentioned in my market report back in January, we're already seeing ATMs for these things popping up in places like bodegas. We're definitely going to see closings. It's already happening in California where people are paid out in cryptocurrency, or where people pay a down payment in cryptocurrency. And now we're going to see this impact real estate. There are going to be virtual agents and brokers. May sound crazy, but it's already happening. Look into it and then see how that impacts the real world. So I think one of the big trends that's going into all of these things, by the way, guys, if you're going, why metaverse, why mortgage applications, why crowdsourcing, why buy now, COVID has really made us look at how we live differently. And it's really made a lot of people want more space to work from home, more space to teach from home, more space to work out from home, more space to work out issues with the people they live with from home. And so as we see people want more for themselves, bigger places, we're seeing a shift from people wanting to be in the middle of urbanized city centers, buy big cultural things, and not care where they live and how big it is because it's a place to relax and go to sleep, wanting more for themselves. And it's creating this huge game of musical chairs that is impacting everything. Or they're looking for escapes on virtual platforms. So pay attention to all those trends. Again, they are inventory, fluctuating interest rates, and technology. And I think a lot of those things are spurred by a need for space. I promised you we would talk about New Orleans by the end of this broadcast, so let's do that now. These are your numbers as it pertains to New Orleans housing. Now, if we look at the entire MLS, and guys, this is the greater New Orleans area. It's bigger than the metro area. It includes St. Bernard. It includes Jefferson County. It includes the North Shore. It includes going on up to Hammond, Harahan. If we look at the MLS, in July, the average home price was $248,000. That's up a little over $2,000 a home from June, $245,750. If we take that into Orleans Parish, so we're just looking at the city proper of New Orleans, we see that number is flat. June was $320,000, July is $320,000, in May it was $247,000. So it jumped a good bit. Now it's plateauing, at least for the past 2 months. If we look at the number of homes for sale inventory is going down across the greater New Orleans area. In June, there were 3,298 homes available actively for sale. In July, that number is 3,177 homes. So it is on the decline. In Orleans Parish, it's a smaller scale decline, but it's also on the decline. 1,257 homes in June, down to 1,257 homes in June, down to 1,223 homes in July. So our inventory is declining and our prices are increasing, just like those national trends that I told you about. As far as closed homes, though, let's look at demand. How many of these homes are closing? That number is on the decline because there's less of them in the greater New Orleans area, and that number is on a small decline in the Orleans Parish area, but not to the degree that the available homes are. So people are scooping up the remnant homes. In June, greater New Orleans area, number of deals that closed, 19,257. In July, 19,166. In Orleans, 4,748. In June, 4,733 in July. Another trend that's happening, and the final one I'll leave you with, days on market. It would seem that if these homes were in high demand and if there was not enough of them, that they would be moving quickly. And that's exactly what's happening. In July, the average home stayed on market, meaning from the day it was listed to the day someone marked that it was in contract, offer accepted. In Orleans, greater New Orleans area, 16 days on market. In June, 14 in July. We're down to 2 weeks, guys, and I can tell you that number was 45 to 60, depending on where you looked in the city in 2019. It's really quick. Things are moving very quickly. And in Orleans, it's closer to 3 weeks, but that number is also on the decline. It was 23 days in July and 22 days in June. If you guys have questions about purchasing property, about selling your property, about finding something, whether it's in New Orleans or in Arizona or anywhere else, please talk to me. I'm happy to share what I know. I want to see you succeed, and I love to help. Thank you so much. Do you love where you live? If you don't, let's fix it. You can count on Cool. Take care. Thanks, guys. Bye.